All right, Max, we've upgraded our facilities.
I like it. Nice
Huh? I
digs.
mean, you got
Nice
a
digs.
couple of awards, you know.
Moving up in the world.
So the title of this episode, or the topic, is emotional intelligence and how they impact teams and performance. So, saying that, a lot of the people would say, what do you define emotional intelligence as?"
It's a good question. I mean, I think when I think of emotional intelligence, we were talking about something like this earlier. It's a bit of pattern recognition,
Hmm?
is how I think about it, right? Like if you look for emotion or a type of behavior in others, and hopefully in yourself as well,
Mm,
it helps you be better as kind of more empathetic, and be more available
mm.
to your teams.
Yep. Yep.
That's how I think. What do you think?
I think, it's sort of two ways to your point. It's a pattern of which you recognize in yourself that emotions are driving some kind of response,
Hmm.
right? Positive, negative. And that being that self aware, you can course correct. Is it a positive or good thing that those are creeping in? And then the second part of that pattern, to your point, is can you recognize the similar things in others and maybe even influence them to be a positive outcome, right? But you can recognize that somebody else might not be having the best day,
Yeah.
um, and then therefore sort of help a corrective action by just even inquiring or giving him some kind of encouragement, or even a little bit of a take a break session, right?
Yeah, I think we all tend to focus on, what makes a good leader. I think there's not one thing. There's
Mm-hmm.
lots of things that come together to make somebody a good leader. And some people can have extremely high IQ,
Mm-hmm.
intelligence,
Yeah.
and very low EQ, and some people can have vice versa. Not one is better than the other. When you think about EQ, I wonder, do you approach different situations where you have to talk to different groups of people differently
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and embrace or emphasize certain parts, IQ, EQ, differently?
I think recognizing your audience or understanding the dimensions of your audience only allows you to tell a better story to reach your audience.
Hmm.
So part of what we do well sometimes is when we get into large groups, we start trying to ask questions, and not so much that we love to get people talking, which is great, but
Yeah.
that you can recognize how to maybe tell a story back that is best landed by that person being able to understand it. So I do adjust, but I also don't like being talked down to
Uh-huh.
or feeling like I don't understand it because it's not explained well
Mm.
versus just put it in the words I would understand it. So
Yeah.
I have a hard time with that. That to me is like try to practice that more often.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely.
To your point about that sort of gets into this sort of self awareness like perspective, right?
Sure.
Do you think you're a self aware guy?
That's a good question. I think I have very high awareness of some things and little to no awareness about other things.
Big
So
blind spots.
big blind spots. I think I think I know myself pretty well, and I think I know what I do well and I don't do well. But I do think that everyone has blind spots, right?
Yeah,
Like they
yeah,
they think something is true of them and it's not. But in a weird way, perhaps even just knowing that
yeah.
is in and of itself, a form of kind of
Self,
knowledge
yeah,
or self
self
awareness.
awareness. Yeah,
Yeah. Really?
I'm self aware that if I do not like the topic, I have already left the discussion. Not left in a physical sense, but
Yeah.
I'm
Mentally, you're gone.
I'm gone.
Yeah.
So, and some people, my mother was great at this, by the way, could recognize that I've already left the room,
Yeah.
and she would bring me right back to the room. But my teachers would recognize that and be like, "I
Mm.
think I lost you, right? What?
Yeah.
What?"
What?
Yeah. So I've been. Most people would call that daydreaming. I call that social intelligence.
That's right. That sounds good to me.
So,
So,
so question two. Um, when you think of EQ, why do you think EQ matters more now, or more now than it did 5, 10, or even 2 years ago? Or do you?
I think it does. I think there's a couple reasons. Like if you imagine what Alorica was like even 2, 3, 5 years ago,
Mm,
it's very different in terms of the population of people we have, different ages, different preferences,
mm,
where they're based physically,
mm,
in office, at home. And two, I think there's a general sense of a changing tone at the top dynamic that is evolving,
great point.
whether it was a function of lots of different needed movements, or something else, or just leadership style changing. Certain things I think will never change, right? Like the best leaders in our view, I think, are servant leaders and those folks that can lead from the front
Mhm,
as well as the back.
mm,
But I think when there's a lot more of focus on, like we talked about this in another podcast, a work-life balance or all
mhm,
those
mhm,
things.
yeah.
And so that the elements of EQ, I think, start to matter more
Mm,
than perhaps less.
mm.
What do you think?
I think when you think about the chronology of 5 or 10 or even 2 years ago, we always face different things, right? I think people may have valued during the pandemic more social interaction
Hmm.
in social cueing and emotional intelligence was really tough. Like this whole transition to being able to be on a camera and not on a camera. Like when you had a conference call, people would struggle to say something to get their words in because you want to be a participant, but you never really could convey any emotion or anything through that conference call. Now this world is fully facial recognition driven. You could tell what people were thinking and seeing because of their faces. But
Yeah.
I think that made a difference. I think right now why it's so important is it sort of hits at the heart of being massively transformational.
Mm,
The reality of the geopolitical issues to I think all of the pressures facing rates and structures and financial elements are just
sure.
putting more and more stressors on why recognizing EQ or social is probably more important than ever. We all need to take that one step and ask the question. I think there was one podcast I was listening to not too long ago where they were advising you never to ask the question, "How are you today?"
Interesting.
In today's virtual world, you kind of have to ask, "How are you today?"
Yeah,
Like, "How's it going?" Right? Or start a conversation off without a business context. It's just, "Hey, what's going on for you this weekend?"
that's
Right?
right.
And to me, those things just kinda help you open a door to if that person's having a problem and you can't just reach out to touch them anymore.
Well, when you think about it, right? Like, and one of the great things about being in a virtual world, you actually are going to someone's house to have a business meeting, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're all going to an office and we're all going to sit down in conference rooms and work away at our computers. I'm coming into your house, to
Yeah.
talk to you about a work thing. And so I totally agree. I think there's a degree of that that exists in a way that hasn't been before.
It's tough. It's tough. Go ahead, fire me a question.
My turn. What can the leaders or aspirational folks that we have at our company do to increase or improve their EQ? What do you think?
I mean, I'll use what we do in practice, and I don't think we were trying to do this, but I think when we took over as leaders of stewards of this business, we didn't know what people were thinking. And so the fastest way to collect data is to talk to a vast amount of people and ask them how are they doing.
Hmm.
Get the feedback. Like those two things fueled our thinking and ultimately how we set up the three pillars of our strategy. But I think the other part to me, the two are the feedback loop to understand what people are thinking. And then the questions are really ask and listen more.
Mm,
I think if we could listen more, we would probably understand more and we could make decisions faster. Whereas if we're only asking the questions and not listening, I think we fall into a bias that our thinking is the right thing all the time. And that's
mm.
probably the wrong one.
I think those are all great ideas. And to pick up on something you said, I think, listen, I think all of us are guilty of this in some way, shape, or form. But one of the things I just spend a lot of time personally kind of retraining the way I think is to actually listen when someone talks to you as opposed to trying to think about what you're going to say next. And
Good
it's,
point.
I think one of the fastest ways for someone to have a low EQ
Yeah.
would be when you ask, how's your day going?
Yeah.
And then I'm over here working on something else. Oh, cool. That sounds like a lot of fun. You're like, no, my dog died. That wasn't a lot of fun. So I think if you don't actually listen when you solicit a question,
It degrades the
yeah,
intent, right? Yeah.
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 Now, not everything can be at the highest end level as
Yeah.
much as possible, but we say this about just be a little bit better tomorrow than you were yesterday. That's a good thing to try to practice in life. Now, sometimes it doesn't work, but
Yeah.
it's at least a good goal.
Again, one of the things you and I face is sort of this sort of motivational need to keep our engines fueled by either people connections, the business growth, challenges, right?
Yeah.
And our expectations is we keep gliding that greatness even further, right? That's our job. Steward the strategy, figure out where to go next. But you get into this sort of mindset where it's going great, and is it time to pause? And we're not pause people, not at all. So we're in the funk, which is like, what do we do next as we think of the strategies? What's weird in our EQ is though we don't put ourselves on the highest amount of EQ, but we both recognized it.
Yeah.
Like in different ways, we both came to the same spot, right?
100%.
Yeah, which to me is that sort of you have it, but you just have to reach down and go get it once in a while.
Yes. Yes.
It's
Yes.
it's like, you wanna throw the best pitch,
Yeah.
but you're just your arm's tired, you're in the ninth inning, you've been pitching 180 pitches, your arm's falling off, and you just need one more pitch, and you're like, "I gotta go get it." I got to
Yeah,
get that watch.
that's right.
So I'm gonna with two stats, and not that stats are important, but what do you think took over the top spot in terms of business needs? So I'll give it context. There was a bit of leadership surveys. A lot of people were asked questions of what is the
Sure.
need for the business going forward in terms of leadership skills and everything else. What do you think took the top spot? You're going to say EQ, which is right. What do you think was right behind EQ?
Well, I would say problem solving, but
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think I might know what the answer
You
is.
do? You're reading ahead. So what was weird is people have said, listen, social intelligence and emotional intelligence are the two biggest drivers because of the transformative side of things going on in the industry and everything else, the world as it is today, and pressures on people. So 26, we need these kinds of things. AI became the second spot right behind it. Now, AI is a technology, but not AI, the technology, artificial intelligence as a concept and an embracing and a strategy
Hmm,
became that second one, and mostly because of its massive impact and transformative abilities, took 39% of the vote, right behind 46% of the vote, which was the EQ
hmm.
side of it. And then what do you think was third?
Let's say decision making.
Yeah. So in theory, if you got EQ and social right, and you've got a view set of how AI impacts what everybody's talking about, so you understand it and emotionally can deal with it, then right behind it was your decision making that had to happen as a result of it, which is
Yeah.
strategic. Interesting concept. That first time that a AI became like right behind it,
The leadership,
uh,
the strength
the
of your
strength.
AI knowledge was a leadership
Yeah.
ability or asset, if you think about it that way.
Yeah, it was an interesting concept. Look, one last one, and I know you'll come up with a good answer because I have to think mine for a while. So I'm going to ask you the
Okay.
question.
So you're not gonna listen to what I'm saying.
Any any examples of where you put EQ into practice within our ecosystem in the last year that you could that it just pops into your mind?
Yeah. I mean, I think we both do this, so I'm going to cheat and give an answer that is true for both of us. I find it incredibly regenerative and energy inducing when we do town halls, when we go around the world
Yeah,
and
yeah,
meet with our people in person. And I think we do a good job of this, not to toot our own horn, but to be actually a person.
yeah.
And there are two of us that steward this business, and we take that very seriously, but we are also people.
Mm,
And so to answer questions that are difficult or require you to think on your feet, and do so in a genuine way that talks to people that they don't feel like they're being talked down
mm,
to,
mm.
but they can understand what the answer is, I think is a good use of EQ that we do on a very regular basis. What
No,
what would you say?
I mean, that's a great example. And since you answered for me, maybe I'm off the hook. But um, no, I think there was a time in 2025, maybe towards the middle of Q2, where you and I were taking a fairly big bet
Mm,
by, I'll call it, placing some staffing in what we thought would materialize until later. And it was a bet that was the year's bet, which was it was going to make our year or it was going to kill our year. But and I think we had to keep our emotions in check in our forward thinking in order to keep people calm through the glide path.
yeah,
We also had to manage and understand other people's viewpoints of that and deal with them a lot. And I
sure.
think those are the moments where we knew what we were doing. A few other people figured it out very quickly within the quarter, and then I think that bet paid off, and we're glad it did for many reasons.
I think whether or not this is EQ or IQ or just being a thoughtful person, doing it genuinely matters more
Ah,
than
good point.
not necessarily, faking your way through it if you don't exactly know what you're doing,
Yeah,
right? I don't think EQ is one of those things like there's that saying that you can't teach someone EQ, you
mm,
just either have it or you don't.
mm,
I think everyone has it to a certain degree and
mm,
it comes out in different forms of fashions. But what I would also say is like, don't fake it, right?
mm,
Like if it's not your strength and you want to work on it as a personal development thing, that's great.
yeah,
You should do that.
yeah,
But also faking it is the fastest way. Like I'm like, how was your weekend? I'm over here typing
yeah.
away and I'm not listening. Not only did it go from being like, well, he's kind of an even guy to now he's like, so he's asking me questions. He doesn't care what I say.
Yeah, yeah, I think
That's what I'd say.
it comes across as disingenuous, but
Yes.
it does erode your leadership style, and I think creates more of a problem if you're trying to fake it. Because if you're not good at it, I don't necessarily think you have to overstate you're not good at it. You just have to recognize it, and then in some cases, when it's reached either your or the individual's emotion you're talking to, it's gotten to a place where you feel uncomfortable. It's the time to say, okay, I need to back off and understand it. Just doing that is
Yeah.
probably just de-escalating or de-stressing the situation is probably really helpful.
S-
So what's funny is given this is the leadership second part of the leadership like you just said, our highest amount of consumed courses on Alorica University is the leadership series courses.
Right behind it is AI.
AI. Yeah. Any final thoughts for the thank you for our constituencies, the all 7 of them and the dog that's
Yes,
joined.
I appreciate the 8th
Genevieve,
person,
yeah.
my dog Genevieve.
Genevieve, the Great Dane, is
The Great
now
Dane.
is gonna be our mascot.
We'll have her join the next one.
Anyways, thank you guys for joining us on this lovely podcast. We appreciate every one of the 5 listeners and the dog.
See you later, guys.